Hi, I'm Gary Evershed. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Shire of Augusta-Margaret River, and we've embarked recently on a major project to find out what the community wants us to do and what the vision they see for the future of this beautiful part of the world over the next 20 years, the Vision 2036 project. Look, this community plan is so important to our Shire. As it says, it's the community's plan for the next 20 years. What sort of community we want in 20 years' time and what the people in our community say is their preferred future. How would they like to see this Shire develop? What services do they want? What aspects do they want to make their lives richer over that period of time? We've been so fortunate to be able to gather a group together. There's 36 people representing areas from right across the Shire. We've got a really engaged community. There's over 200 community groups in our Shire. They represent volunteerism right across the board. They come from a diverse range of areas like Augusta, Quarrama, the Gracetown, Rosa Brook, a number of different coastal and rural settings. The task of putting together this group has been a good exercise in its own right. Firstly, we advertised in the newspapers and we put out our own publicity, and we tried to attract nominations from right across the board, and we achieved a good result from that. And we also wanted to supplement that by targeting representatives from our different community groups. So our hard-working staff got on the telephone, rang people up. We sent emails and other letters out. So all in all, we were able to get, as well as the individuals who nominated, representatives of broader community groups to come in and represent those groups. So we've got a very rich and vibrant group that represents the dimensions of our Shire right across the board. We're so fortunate to have terrific facilitation. We appointed Tuna Blue to do the job, and Tuna Blue is Bevan Besson and his son Will Besson, and they're experts in their trade. They work all over Western Australia. They provided terrific facilitation, not only through the workshops which have been held in 6 different locations right across the Shire. They've been able to also do the wordsmithing and collating of all the terrific material that's been given by the community. But they're also doing the wordsmithing of the outcomes of the workshops, and they've written what people have suggested to them and the passionate way they've put things across. They've put that into words, and that feedback's been used to develop our community plan.
So my name is Byron Joel. I am a 9-year resident of Margaret River. That doesn't quite make me a local yet, apparently. And I'm in the field of regenerative agriculture.
My name's I'm Rolly. I'm fairly new to the area.
I'm Karen Major. I'm representing the Shire Sustainability Advisory Committee, which I chair.
My name's Laura Bailey. I'm with Transition Margaret River for the purposes of joining this crew of people. I'm personally really excited to be having these conversations to try and further communication between local government and our community, and to try and really get some stuff happening, some change making. It's an exciting time.
Session 1 was really fun because that was a chance with a lot of people coming in with lots of different expectations to really get that on the table, work out what people want to achieve from what's a pretty lengthy process, and have a bit of fun.
So a really important part of that first night was taking a really big picture approach to our region and tackling some of those high level issues such as transport, what's the future of agriculture in our region, what's the future of technology, what's the likelihood of climate change, and there was a whole range of other issues that were canvassed at the early stages, so that we made sure that it was a big picture approach.
I guess I'm really excited about this process. I've previously been involved in a similar process in the town of Bassendean, and I really embraced the asset-based community development model. So I'm hoping that I've got some experience and skills to bring to the group.
Yes, I guess my big one is making sure that the area stays nice and green and clean, and not so, like, it doesn't get too busy with large amounts of people.
Regenerative agriculture is basically defined as how do human populations provide for all of their needs: food, fibre, shelter, energy, etc., water, while simultaneously, by default, fostering a robust ecological environment in the meantime. And to me, that's foundational, so I really hope to punch that through.
I think today was a really good start. There was a willingness from people that I observed to want to work with each other, to want to talk. I detected that there was an eagerness, in fact, to get involved in it. So I think it was a great start.
So session 2 was the one that we had at Augusta, and that was really the start of the journey. So session 1, we got people super interested, super keen to start participating, and session 2 was where we got to start really big with the end in mind. So we did a visioning session, but in fact, before we thought big and looked forward, we did a shared history session. People got the chance to look back on over 150 years, in fact, even further back, before colonial times, and think about what are the key events of this region's history that have really marked some changes. And people talked about changes in agriculture, more relaxed lifestyle, surfing coming in, viticulture, things like that, and got to reflect back over the patterns and the lessons that this community's learnt that they really want to carry forward into the future.
An important component of that session was the input that staff gave on the legal constraints that we work under, how the community plan fits into our integrated planning program, and it was also an opportunity to give feedback to the community from the first session and other various inputs that we'd had to that point in time. So it's been an iterative process all the way through, where we've been constantly feeding back information into the group, and the group's taken that and developed it further as we've gone through the process.
My name's Laura Bailey, I'm with the Transition Margaret River Group. My personal vision for Augusta Margaret River Shire in 2036 would be to have a community and local government that listens and understands each other.
Then we got super creative, and we really dove into what people want the region to look like in 2036 and think big. And that's where we got this preferred future statement from. And that's one of the things I'm most proud of in this whole sort of journey and this whole process, because people really jumped into that. They took a leap of faith, and rather than talking quite abstract terms, they peaked it and they said, look, we want things like renewable energy, we want things like great tourism values that reflect who we are. And they got quite specific around things they'd like to see in the future. So yeah, really good session in Augusta to sort of look back, take some learnings on that, because it's not often we do that as a community, to reflect and then to look forward and say, where do we want to get to as that shining beacon, that light on the hill as we work our way through.
Our third session was held at the Quarrumup District Club, which once again was a very terrific community venue where a lot of people and a lot of community activity already happens in that particular space. So the session, there was a presentation again from our Shire staff, and the focus was particularly about development and what's happening in terms of the development and sustainable development in our Shire and how that needs to be managed into the future.
My name's Stephanie Keno and I'm a 4th generation deer farmer. Today I'm here for Margaret River Agricultural Society and the SES, so State Emergency Services.
My name is Sean Allen and I'm representing two groups, which is the Margaret River Independent School and the Margaret River Martial Arts Club. So my focus is obviously on the younger generation and the community they're going to grow into and move into, and hopefully they'll be the decision makers.
Session 3, Quarrumup. Pretty eventful. We really jumped into it, and with that vision in mind, that preferred future, it was a chance to get a bit more critical and say, okay, in terms of us getting there, what are the challenges and opportunities that this region faces? And that's hard work, to sort of cast an eye over what's happening now and looking into the future and saying, what is it that's going to stand in our way, and what is it that we really need to leverage and get going? And the bit that kept coming home, despite groups working independently in small groups, everyone managed to get consensus around a huge growth in resident population and visitation, placing a whole lot of pressures on the Margaret River Augusta region. So, with that in mind, we got together a good list of those challenges and opportunities, and they really sort of set the scene and set the task to tackle the plan in a whole lot more detail over the next few sessions.
So I want to see more vibrancy and life of the youth come in. In the big cities, that's where you get it all, because that's where everybody goes. But if we can encourage people to come back and maintain some of that vitality, I think that would be awesome for business and development and strategic plan going forward. So yeah, that's what I like to see.
My name's Kerry Sibley. I'm from the Quarrumup region. Well, not originally, I'm actually a blow-in. I blew in about 7 years ago. I'm actually really keen to get involved in local decision making to protect the reason we came here. You know, I mean, we've got a fantastic environment and we need to look after it, otherwise we will just be part of the generic blancmange that the rest of the urban sprawl is, and none of us want that. So.
Hey, I'm Stacey and I'm the Community and Corporate Planner here at the Shire of Augusta Margaret River. So I've been with the Shire about a year or so, and this is my first big project with them, is to help facilitate this major review. This is our third session here today. It's going awesomely. I'm loving getting to know the community better and seeing them also have the opportunity to talk and get to know one another. There's some awesome values and sentiments coming out of these sessions, and I'm loving the ability to be able to be a part of that at the moment. So yeah, we're really excited about the next lot of sessions, and yeah, it's going to be great.
In April, we ventured out to Gracetown, which is a beautiful coastal hamlet, and there's a terrific community centre there.
Gracetown was a really fun session because it was kind of a balance between hearing some really innovative new ideas, fresh perspectives. Stacey had done a lot of work to engage with different cohorts, multicultural groups, disability and access groups, young families, bring those perspectives into the planning, refresh and reframe the discussion for the group, And also we had the Youth Council come in and give a really frank and open account of what it's like to be young in Augusta Margaret River and sort of challenge some assumptions the group might have had. So we had that on one hand, and then we had to balance that with having a go at the actual goals, strategies, outcomes, etc. in the plan, and really dive into the detail and make some hard decisions. Leading up, it had been bigger picture stuff around the vision, the challenges and opportunities, the values. This was a chance to really dive into what's it going to look like on paper, how will that translate to the way the Shire and the wider community organises effort, makes decisions. So we did some really good work there, got stuck into it, and of course lots of differing points of view, and it was our job afterwards to pull that together so that at the final session people could take a look back and fine-tune that to a degree.
My name's Callum Moon, so I work for the Shire. I'm the Community Development Trainee, and part of that role is being the chair of the Youth Advisory Council. So I'm here today basically to talk about youth perspective on 2036, describe what youth think should happen, how it should happen, what we believe are going to be really important for youth now plus into the future. So basically give a youth perspective rather than hearing what the youth should get. So it just gives us an opportunity to really give our voice out, not be tokenistic about it, let people hear it, and basically just take it on and get into it and be honest. So
we understood that we wouldn't be able to capture everybody in our group of 36. There would be some groups that would miss out because they're traditionally underrepresented. So, for example, the people with disabilities, we ran a session with the Disability Access and Inclusion Group and got valuable feedback from people with disabilities to feed into our plan. We also did a mail out to about 200 new residents to town that had taken on Australian citizenship. So we're able to get some good diverse feedback from newcomers and people that have immigrated from other parts of the world. So that was a group that we thought it was very important to get the views of people that had come from far away to our shores to become part of our community.
So one of the key areas we wish to focus on this 5th session was looking at some of those key issues and getting group consensus. They included climate change, sustainability, planning, volunteerism and youth.
My name's Ian Earl, I'm the President of the Augusta Margaret River Shire, and it's a pleasure to be out here today. We've got this is a terrific diverse group of locals, ratepayers, members of our community who have come together over a long time to put this vision together, and congratulations for doing that. I have no doubt that this is going to help make a very good report at the end of the day, which I certainly hope will be well used by council and by the officers, and won't be sitting on a shelf and gathering dust, and I'm sure it won't be. This is the first of the sessions that I've really been to, because I've liked to stay away and let the community make their own decisions without influence of councillors, because we get our opportunity when we see the final draft report of this, and so we'll have some input or perhaps some changes at that stage. But I'm very pleased and encouraged by what I've heard here today. There's any number of people are talking and having their suggestions and their changes to where they've been over the last few months.
Tuna Blue, who've been our facilitators throughout this process, developed a document for our use, which was the Community Strategic Directions 2036. And this document outlined the 5 key result areas which the group were going to focus on. Prior to this session, the Shire managers met and were able to review those strategic directions and provide input to guide the group during their process and deliberation.
Okay, so session 5 at Rosabrook was probably the session where people really had to come to terms with a lot of the work that they'd done as preparatory work. They really had to say, is this articulating where we want to go? Is it robust? Does it really convey the things that we want? And it was a really interactive, a really participative session. People got really full on into it, and there came a point in that where in fact there was an agreement with the whole group that perhaps there needed to be a bit of a shift in the way that the draft plan was framing up, and the group actually came to a really good consensus that they could both have a strong impact on climate change, on technology, on social justice, and they could balance that with the planning for the district.
We're here at Council Chambers for the last session of the Community Reference Group planning, and I'm really proud of what this group's achieved because it's been a really long 6-session sort of process over almost a year, and to stick with that, to stay positive, to keep challenging each other, and to come up with some really good outcomes in the form of a really thoroughly thought out plan and reviewed community strategic plan. I think that's just an amazing effort by this community, and it shows how invested they are in making sure that this beautiful place is kept intact, sustainable and wonderful for us to all enjoy. So I'm really proud of everyone, and I've had a great time.
So today, this is the final session with the Community Reference Group, and this really is about a handover and about providing all of the work, all of the thinking, all of the energy that's gone into it for the Council to consider. It's been a really, really interesting journey, and the commitment that people have shown throughout, they've continued to come along, to get involved, to participate, they've put lots of energy into it. There's been a huge amount of extra work done in between the sessions, which has just made all the difference. So all that hard work done with local group discussions, small group discussions, surveys, public events, all of that has fed in, and it's made the whole thing much richer. So today is about bringing all of that together and saying, here's what we're thinking over the next 20 years.
The draft Community Strategic Plan 2036 was presented to Council, and it really allowed the community members to meet directly with councillors and articulate their vision for the future. It's now to Council to review that document and to make that vision a reality.
We genuinely want to drill down into the community and find out what you are thinking as community members and your passions and what you see as the future, because you'll inherit it and your children, and it's important that we know exactly the type of future that you want, your preferred future in 20 years' time.